This is Time Signatures with Jim Ervin, a podcast and radio program presented by the Capital Area Blues Society in Lansing, Michigan.
Driving up and down these Michigan roads, yeah.
And now, here he is, your host, Jim Ervin.
Baby, I'm home.
Hey, everyone. Welcome, and thank you so much, Parker. I'm your host, Jim Ervin, and this is Time Signatures. As the seasons change, we are beginning to see signals of album releases. And you know my policy, if you've been a guest here previously and you have something to promote, such as a new album or a tour, you are welcome to come back and talk about it. My guest today is just such an individual, but boy, he has been burning the midnight oil lately. He's been all over the state of Michigan. He's traveled to California earlier this past summer, and he's been tying up loose ends on a new album too, which is due for release this week. He and I have become friends over the past few years, and I never tire of talking to him about music, life, and his creative process, because he really does have an intricate, deeply personal way of writing his music. He does not travel down the in-the-box blues route very often, opting instead for something that offers some blues, some R&B, maybe a smattering of funk, and then some stuff that touches the hem of the older rock garment along the way as well. So let's get this guy in here, and we're going to get more information. Greg Nagy, it's always a pleasure to have you, man. Welcome once again to Time Signatures.
Oh, my brother, it's always great to be here. Thank you for having me.
You know, you're going to have to pay me to start writing these intros because I'm doing pretty good, don't you think?
That was better than Chat GPT.
Listen, you have been a busy man these past several months, Greg. So before we delve into the new album, which I know you're dying to talk about, let's revisit things just a little bit from 2025. Talk about your recent tour with the Real You album.
Oh, you mean when I went out to California?
Well, a little bit everything. You've been all over the place.
In the Northern Michigan gigs, yeah. Oh, yeah, I think they kind of blurs. The intense one, it was a one-off at the Sebastiani Theater in Sonoma, California. That was a blast. I used the California band out there. Wonderful, wonderful players. Bass player from one of the bass players from Robert Cray's band, Carl Severide. And then this drummer, Paul Ravelli, who played with Bonnie Raitt and oh my goodness, the gentleman, I'm blanking right now. I'm so sorry. The gentleman who just Joe Louis Walker.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Another, he's like a Bay Area guy, and then wonderful guitar player by the name of Takazo that I kind of got put in connection with via Bobby Murray. Bobby knew Takazo from when Bobby lived out in California back in the day, and then a wonderful piano player by the name of Baxter Robertson. And they learned my stuff really, really well. And it was a really nice show. And I guess Joe Bonamassa' parents were in the audience. And They were very confident. They said, man, there's a lot of talent coming out of Michigan. Well, I don't know if I'm coming out of Michigan very often, but thank you.
That's cool, man. Go ahead.
Yeah. So then, so that was a fun show, but it was pretty intense. It was, fly out, sound check, run a few of the tunes at sound check, do the show, spend a day in Sonoma, come back the next day, and then come back and do a lot of my usual fare, like the restaurant, solo acoustic gigs and all that kind of fun stuff. And then I had like a week and a half long run all around Michigan, a few solo acoustic shows like at libraries and one up for the Chamber of Commerce in Indian River, Michigan. And then I had a whole 8 days in a row from Traverse City to Baldwin, Michigan, just 8 days in a row with the full band. And that was, with Jim Elferson and Donnie Brown and Rocco Poplarski. And that was a lot of fun. And then came back and did a private party with Bobby Murray, Etta James's guitar player.
Yep.
Slept for 4 days. I was wrapping up this record, trying to figure out how to, because I do all the administrative stuff, the mocking up the artwork and the credits. And so, yeah, it's kind of a blur, actually. Summer, I know I'm missing some stuff, but
Well, yeah, and I want you to talk about the concert in Flint that you put on. That was a big deal earlier in the year.
The Flint Capitol Theater. Yeah, that was wonderful.
Yeah.
That was like on a Wednesday night, and they had like 500 people come out, pretty close to 500. And uh, that I was fortunate enough to have Ray Goodman on the gig with me. Ray was a guitar player and occasionally still is a guitar player for Mitch Ryder, in the Detroit Wheels. Mitch Ryder, of course, is the guy who inspired Seeger and Springsteen and a whole bunch of people.
Devil with the Blue Dress. Yeah.
Yeah, and so that was a super fun gig. And a lot of the guys that are on the record, John Barron and Todd Glass, and of course Jim Elfredson, they were all on that gig, and that was a great one. And yeah, I forgot. It's funny how I almost forgot about the gig. It was in February. Yeah, that was a good one.
I remember it was early in the year. I wanted to be there and I couldn't make it, and I was really bummed because that was a show I wanted to see. And then when I saw the turnout, I was like, holy crap, you packed the place, man.
That doesn't happen much in the blues and roots.
Yeah.
John, you get 50 who like what you're doing. It's a great night. I hate to say it, but it's true.
Well, Greg, now this summer's been equally busy as well. You've been traveling around, hitting some of the blues festivals that have happened. Port Sanilac was a great time. Talk about that show, because you had Ray with you at that one as well.
Yeah, I mean, I had a lot of reverence for that particular show. Ray probably wouldn't mind me just alluding to this. He had some very serious health issues.
Yes, sir.
I'd leave it up to him if you ever get a chance to interview him, so if he wants to talk about the specifics. But, it was his first time basically on a gig and on his feet for 90 minutes. And so I had reverence for the fact that he was there. And then also I had to do a 90-minute set, or got to do a 90-minute set. And then Bobby Murray had me play 90 more minutes with him. So two 90-minute sets where you're trying to be on point is a lot. And then I got in the car.
Yeah.
Fun festival, by the way. I really enjoyed that festival. They put on a great show. But then I got in the car and I drove all the way up 4.5 hours, I think, to very northern part of Michigan, up Harbor Springs, and
yes, sir.
Played a solo acoustic the next day at a place called Pond Hill. And so, yeah, it was just, that was quite the whirlwind. But again, I'm not complaining. I'm very grateful to be working. It's just, I make the joke that sometimes even within the state of Michigan, you feel like you're getting paid to drive as much as you're getting paid to play, because, you go where the things are. And I also feel fortunate that I can keep pretty busy closer to home. And I really have a lot of respect for the road dogs out there who go out there and go all over the place, which, by the way, I kind of want to do next year now that I'm retired. I want to get out more next year.
Nice.
Yeah.
That'd be fun.
But I also am very grateful that I've been able to stay afloat, with primarily out of Michigan.
And you've definitely got some people that are fans that love your music. And I'm not just talking about me. I'm talking about a lot of people out there that continue to support what you do, and they love the music that you're putting out there. And not too long ago, you also visited the Michigan Blues Festival. And I have to be honest with you, Greg, I've seen you perform in several different arenas, small and large. And your performance at the Blues Festival on that Friday evening, bar none, was, I believe in my mind, was the best performance I've seen you put on yet.
I felt very comfortable there. They make you feel very comfortable there. And not taking anything away from the other blues festivals, but also, I'll be honest with you, when you have me play a 1:00 in the afternoon show, and that was my choosing, by the way, when I did that with the other one we were talking about, that's not on, but I really don't wake up till after 6 or 7. You opposite in that sense, probably. But yeah, so that was my prime time. There's a lot of history in Lansing for me. Having played with the Root Doctor, and then I fronted my own band in Lansing for years before I was even in Root Doctor back in the 90s. So it's not my home, but it feels like home. And I was kind of almost taken back at how many people came out who I hadn't seen in probably 15, 20 years. And they made sure
Yeah.
they made a point of coming up and saying hello. And I was a little distracted, you know. I felt like wish I could have talked to people more than I did, but um, it was pretty moving. So that kind of probably fed into it a little bit, this homecoming vibe. And the sound was good. Sometimes you feed off the way the sound is.
Right.
I could hear everything kind of reverberating down the city streets off the buildings, and it just had a very enveloping. It just felt good, and you know, you're supposed to sound good no matter how it sounds to you, but we're human. If you know, if the sound is a little off, sometimes it takes me a minute just to ignore the fact that it's off, and I just have to do
Right.
this. Some people are great at just like shutting everything out, but me, I feed off of it. So one of the reasons I walk the audience right out of the gate, one, it's effective, and I've been doing it lately. But it makes me more comfortable to know that things are okay sound wise. So if I
Yes.
go out, I can hear them like, okay, this is going to work. And then I can go back and not worry about it, which
There you
I
go.
worry about it when I'm up there anyhow. It's not in my hands, but I do. I want I want it to be a good show. I want it to sound good. So,
Yes, sir.
you
Yes,
know, I don't
sir.
know if that makes
Well,
sense.
Greg, I want to flip the page here. We got to talk about this new album. Just a Little More Time is the name of the album. Features 11 tracks, 5 of which are covers. So I want to begin there because the one thing that I love and appreciate about your style, musically speaking, is that you really do own those covers when you do them. And it's not easy to do. I mean, you've tackled some pretty tough ones. But you generally shine on these covers that you did on this album. Go ahead and talk about that for a minute.
The approach in general for me is almost easy because I stink at mimicking.
Okay.
Not want to hire for like a really successful corporate, and I'm not knocking anybody. Everybody's got their own skill set,
Yeah, 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 yeah.
but I'm not the guy like, you know, hey, I want you to come in and sound like whoever, and I can't. I've always interpreted it, and it always came from a place of um, if it's somebody I really look up to, you know, musically speaking, an iconic person, it's intimidating. And so anytime I feel like I would try to mimic that person's approach to it, I would instantly compare myself to them. And this isn't false modesty. You're gonna fall short. First of all, they might even hear you doing their song and think you do it better, but it doesn't matter. You've programmed your brain to think it's got to sound like this, and this, and then
Right.
when it
Yes,
doesn't,
sir.
work. So you're like, well, here's the quick fix. Don't worry about it. Just make it sound good, and just be as honest about it in the process as you can. With that said, there are people who are really good craftspeople or craftsmen, craftswomen at taking a tune and duplicating it. And I have friends who do that so well that
Yep.
I kowtow to them. I think it's the most amazing thing. I'm just not wired like that. So then it becomes easy to do song interpretation. It's like, well, no, I'm going to screw it up if I try to do it just like the record. So I'll change the tempo, I'll change the key. Rainy
Yep.
Night in Georgia, for example, you know, everybody knows Brooke Benton, but Tony Joe White wrote it. I had the benefit of hearing Tony Joe White do it around the same time that I heard Brooke Benton do it. I was like,
Oh,
boy,
wow.
are those different. So it kind of softened up the impact of the Brooke Benton baritone, the roundness of those notes when he goes low, that, you know, you just, there are people who can do it. I'm not one of them. And then I heard Boz Scaggs' version. I heard other versions. And I just said, okay, well, that's been done. 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 I kept looking for windows for creation. And even I didn't have to look that hard because what was happening, I was still trying to mimic a little bit, but I would screw it up a little bit. And then all of a sudden I had, oh, that works. That works with that phrase, or that works with that lyric. The thing about the lyric is it's like, what makes it easy is to say, what kind of emotion do you want to affix to a lyric? Or is one the kind of singer that just wants to show what they can do with their voice, which is cool too. There are some tremendous technical singers.
Right.
I've always been drawn to the singers who I felt like they were talking to me as much as they were singing to me. And I don't mean talking in their singing phrasing sense. I mean more
Speaking to you.
speaking to me. Yeah.
Yeah.
Although, let me back. Sometimes there is a phrasing thing that's akin to a conversation. Say an idea, make sure they absorbed it, go on to the next idea, like I hopefully just did there, but with my hands.
Yeah.
But so there's elements of, you can operate from, okay, try to add something new to this song because it's honorable to interpret a song in a honest way, in a meaningful way, because it's a lot like the oral tradition of people telling folk stories and stuff. And over time, like before, when people wanted to share mythology and stuff, each generation would come up with their own little spin on it, whatever, but they had to make it compelling. They wanted the gist of the story to still be intact. They wanted part of it to still be intact. So you just, in short, that was a long-winded way of saying, go with your strengths, I guess, whatever those are. And that's where the song interpretation comes from. The other thing that's funny about song interpretation is you can be going through the process of trying to interpret a song and you change it so dang much that you get to the point where you're going, well, at this point, I should write new words because I've changed the melody or I've changed where the chords go. I mean, I've done before. And I had a friend to me one time said, well, that's cheating. I'm like, I don't think that's cheating. I think classical musicians did that crap all the time. They would start to lift
all the time
and then just deliberately manipulate it. But me, it was more a process of failing at the interpretation, but going, oh, that's a cool little turn of phrase. Or I make a mistake. And the other thing my brain does to me is I could be in the room and music could be playing in the other room, and I'm just far enough away that it's almost like an auditory hallucination where what I'm hearing is not the song because I'm so far away from it. All I'm hearing is like the most prominent frequencies that are popping out to the other room, and they could be a certain rhythmic feel or something, but you would never identify that sound with that song. Like, does that make sense?
Yep.
It's like by virtue of having distance, so to speak, in this sense, actual physical distance. We could talk about emotional distance from stuff too, right? As a tool possibly, but then you go, oh, that's a cool little riff. And one of my songs, somebody did a video of my song Walk That Fine Thin Line, and I heard just the intro, but it was skipping in a weird way. And the way the intro came in, like the way it was filmed.
Yeah.
And instead of, instead of doing that, it was like, da-da-da-ba-da-dum, da-da-dum-ba-da-dum, da-da-dum-ba-da-dum. And I went, oh my God, there's a song. It's my song. I'm myself off now. But it's like this, taking a phrase out of context and then building. But I don't do it. I do it as an accident more than like, I don't deliberately go out of my way to rip stuff off, but I'm inspired by not what I hear, but sometimes what I thought I heard. Does that make sense?
I think a lot of musicians are very similarly wired for that, just because of the fact they have that creative juice flowing, and they hear something. And I mean, I remember talking to Chris Canis, and he talked about going down the road and hearing the thump of the tires on the pavement, and that got him going on a song more than once.
Yeah.
But I got to tell you, Rainy Night in Georgia is like, it's religious, man. It's really one of those songs you better know what you're doing with. My favorite rendition of that song was Conway Twitty and Sam Cooke. I grabbed my phone. I was looking it up because I didn't want to mess it up. But I mean, you've never heard that version?
Oh, no. Probably maybe a good.
No, you actually need to check it out because him and Sam had a great time with it. But I said that to say this. I really enjoyed your version. I don't enjoy everybody's version of that song because it's one of those songs you don't tread on unless you know what the hell you're doing,
Or you don't know what you're doing, but you're brave.
Well, there's that too.
But you're stupid or brave enough to try it. E.G. Kite?
Yeah.
She sent me a text the other day. She said that was one of her favorite tracks on the record.
See, there you go.
Yep, she said the Georgia Songbird. She's in the Georgia Music Hall of Fame. E.G. is.
Oh, wow.
We did a duet together on one of our records a few years ago. I don't know if
Okay.
it's called
I don't know if I've heard that one.
Bad Times. It was written by Ann Rabson and her and somebody else. Ann Rabson
Okay.
was the blues women. And I know this is like 10 years ago, maybe. But you can find it on YouTube or Spotify. It's called Bad Times, CG Kite.
Okay.
Um,
Before we get off the topic of covers, I have to ask you, Greg, why these? What stood out about them and made you say, I need these on this album? And do you have any favorites of those five?
well, I mean, so okay, that's a great question. It's funny
Thank
because
you.
the I have to give credit to Josh Ford on a couple of these because he had seen me perform Only Women Bleed with just me and my acoustic, and he saw and not trying to sound cocky, but
No, no,
just
no.
just me and my acoustic, and the room would just get super quiet, and people get really drawn in, and they thought it was pretty bold and ballsy, and they seemed to like it. And so, and then Rainy Night in Georgia, I've talked to him in passing about, but I've always been like, I'm not going to do it. So that very same day, we had me, Jim Alfredson, Todd Glass, and John Barron in the studio, and I had other songs to work on. So, and we got done quick. My originals, we got done fast. And Josh said, "Well, let's just do Only Women Bleed and Rainy Night in Georgia." I'm like, "What?" I said, "I don't even know if I knew the lyrics to Only Women Bleed because I'd done it enough, but I didn't remember the lyrics to Rainy Night in Georgia." I'm like, "What the heck?" And so it was just, honest to goodness, that those Rainy Night in Georgia in particular, it was because somebody pushed me a little bit instead of me pushing myself. And that's what it takes sometimes. And then jumping over to Sugaree, the Grateful Dead cover, that was just
Oh,
simply
yeah.
when I was doing those previous 3 years with Larry McRae. His early management kept pushing him to do a Grateful Dead cover, and every time he did it, it just killed. Larry's not a big Grateful Dead guy. He'd tell you if you were sitting right here.
Right. Yeah.
So he was like, I don't know. But every time we do it, we would all look around at each other like, we're not even really nailing this song. And we don't, everybody would admit that. But I didn't realize this song was so well known among these baby boomers that were in the audience. And so part of me was like, I want to take a swing at it just for the heck of it. And I called Larry and I just said, "Hey, you ever going to record that? Because I don't want to be that guy. I mean, if you got there first, you go ahead and, I don't, or worst case scenario, I'll suffer what he suffered at the hands of the Allman Brothers, where the story, where he did Soul Shine and then he did it a couple years later and everybody thinks he's covering Soul Shine or Sugaree, and then he does it next year and everybody hears his version and then thinks I'm covering him at gigs, but or that I don't have an original idea. But I don't really, in that case, have much of an original idea. I saw it working for Larry and I said, "Are you going to do it?" And he goes, with an explicative, blankety blank, no, which made me laugh. And I said, "Okay, well, I'm going to do it." And he goes, "Good luck." you know, he just, it wasn't for him. Like, he just didn't, but he sounded great. That's the irony. He sounded so good doing it. I was like, well, dude. And plus it's one of those songs that's for a certain cohort of people, it's like an anthem.
Yep.
So about an anthem song is that you get to the point where the audience fills in all the blanks because they've already internalized the tune. It's almost part of their DNA. So if you pretty much just get most of the words right and most of the melody right, and you seem believable with these anthem type tunes, you're gonna kill. And the first time I did Sugaree live was solo acoustic. It was after I tracked it in the studio, so my brain was all wrapped around this production of studio
Oh,
stuff.
wow.
Overwhelmed.
Okay.
I had my acoustic, and there were these Deadheads there, and they're like, "Hey, you doing a Grateful Dead?" I'm like, Andre says, "Do it." I'm like, deer in the headlights song. And I mean, if I saw a video of it right now, I would wince at how not happy I would be with it, which is sort of my baseline anyhow. But I mean, really, really wince. They went nuts. They thought it was, one guy said it was better than the original. I'm like, wow. But the point is, because they were filling in all the blanks in their head. They already knew it. They're probably already singing with me, which would mask if I wasn't exactly threading the needle and delivering it.
Not just that, Greg, but I have to interject something here. Your voice lends itself very well to that song.
Oh, thanks.
I'm not a Deadhead. I'm not familiar with the
Nor
Dead's
am I.
music. That was, I think, maybe the second time I heard Sugary, and I think Larry might have been the first.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
I think the tonal quality of your voice lent itself to the phrasing and the way that the
Uh,
music came out and plays in the record. Does that make sense?
yeah. If I were to if I were to step back and try to look at myself as an object on that one, which is what you have to do when you're your own producer, by the way. You have to somehow
Sure.
learn of just removing yourself as much as possible. It's not ever completely possible, but and then just say, well, okay, there's certain songs that if they're too embellished vocally, like when Something Is Wrong with My Baby by Sam and Dave, there's certain I saw a couple on The Voice or something years ago covering that song when Something's Wrong with My Baby, and they were just riffing like crazy, and they had amazing vocal instruments, but they were riffing so much that the melody was gone. See,
Yeah, and I think that's why I like what you're doing with the covers, because you don't go down that road. You're channeled on what you're going to do with it, and you don't go too far afield, if
no,
that
I'll
makes sense.
think melodically, but I won't make it about. I try not to make it about me vocally.
Right.
I make it about the feeling of it. And so even like with Rainy Night in Georgia, little spoiler alert, we have a modulation at the end that is very atypical, and I won't go into it too much. It's like insider baseball, but if there are any musicians watching it, we basically went up a fifth, and I couldn't figure out what to do with the melody. We just kind of did it instrumentally, joking around. And I said, if I move my vocal up a whole fifth into that last verse, it's going to sound ridiculous. And I found a note that worked, and again, if there are any musicians listening, the melody went up a whole step, but the song went up a fifth. There you go. I'll leave it at that. Let that. The short version of it is it worked, and it was a happy accident, but it wasn't meant to be clever. It was just kind of something that Jim Elfredson came up toward the end. He said he wanted to see if I could go bigger, a little bigger on the chorus, on the outro, just to create a different energy. And so that was kind of now there's something about the creative process, going back full circle to what you were saying about how these things unfold.
Yes.
Sometimes, you come in with your ideas, and you can have some good ideas, and other times you got to get out of your own way and just let the song, and this is cliche, but let the song as it unfolds talk to you. If that makes sense.
Yes, absolutely.
And again, I'm fully aware that even still, I can be wrong. It's a very subjective process, clearly by definition still. But if you it's almost like a great fallback to just admit that I'm trying to honor a song here. I'm not playing for my ego purely. You're never going to avoid, ego issues as a human being, but I'm not playing for my ego primarily. The idea is more, am I communicating a feeling, and is it effective? And primarily I have to be the judge of that, because I get the final say, but then I'm open to what people around me are saying in the moment. And even like we're working with Josh Ford, we come from entirely different backgrounds, in many ways, and in other ways we're exactly the same. We love all the different blues guys, same blues guys. He was one of the first guys in Michigan I ever met who got into Sun Seals, and an early Buddy Guy like I did. And, we have a lot of similar tastes. And then we also have different approaches where I can be a little quirkier, and he's really good at understanding the history of all of it and focusing it. So there's like a yin and yang thing going on there, but we've never argued. We've always had the problem of just saying, I'll say, hey Josh, I got this idea. And then he'll say, yeah, let's track it. Or he'll say, I got this idea. So let's track it. Let's just see what it sounds, see what it sounds like. And that is the best thing. Now, if you have no ideas and you have a producer who's got brilliant ideas, that's cooler. because then you just do what they tell you to, and then and if they're
Right.
great, if you're good, it's going to be great or good. But if you are, if you want some input and self-produce a little bit, um, it's good to get out of your own way now again, and just again listen to the people around you, listen to what the song has to tell you, and then also be a little fearless. I've got some on here that are kind of quirky tunes, but then I think about some of my favorite artists, and I think about their catalog, and you can't always tell what's going to hit with somebody.
Yeah. I remember when Toronzo put out his last album, he was talking about, man, I sure hope it hits with the right, the right notes on people. And I hope they get it. And I hope they enjoy it. And he got all done. And I said, well, how do you feel? He says, it's out of my hands now. So, he's
like,
very,
or sending a kid off to whatever. Just all right. Well, I did my best. It's up to everybody to decide. Well, maybe it's a bad analogy, but it is kind of your baby in a way. It's your heart.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I want to turn the page again here because we need to talk about these other 6 cuts, Greg.
Oh, sorry.
I'm not going to ask you if you have any favorites because that would be like singling out one of your favorite children, which is a bad idea.
Yeah.
But I'd like to ask you if these are all new songs or are they songs that maybe you had written years ago, but maybe you wanted to wait for just the right album and this was it. What was the case?
So I go into nearly every project, as you probably already know from previous conversations, where I think I'm going to do one thing, and then all of a sudden the creative process says, "No, you're not." So the first song, "Just a Little More Time," that was written probably like in 10 or 15 minutes after. I can share this here, I guess. I did my Andrea's father passed a few months back, at 96 years of age. He had a good life, but
I remember
going through hospice, and it's not that the song is exactly about that, because there's some other things that were transpiring in my life too, where people were using that phrase, wish you had a little more time, and part of it is that idea of you're in a relationship where you realize all of a sudden the status kind of changes in the sense where if it's a parent-child relationship where, the child at some point feels like they're becoming the parent because they have to become a caregiver. But if it's in a romantic relationship, sometimes things come into play where somebody's a little insecure in the relationship and they just need a little more time to get it secure and believe that the other person, that they're good enough for the other person. So it was kind of inspired a little bit about my own life insecurities, but also that event of seeing somebody who was strong, proud, who all of a sudden was looking up, up and out to others, but trying to balance it. And then all of us just saying the irony of not ever wanting anybody at the end of their life to suffer. But if there could be quality time, can I have just a little more? That kind of, there's a whole complex that goes into that, but that, again, that's kind of what inspired it. But then you get into it and you're like, well, let's not be so telly. Let's not make it so like a diary entry. Let's make it more of an illusion. Let the listener have their own meaning to it. Like I said, this is essentially a human relationship song, about the dynamics of relationships. If you wanted to get overly analytical about it from a philosophical standpoint, you can talk about, there was a movie out years ago called Remains of the Day, where the underlying theme was sometimes being the queen, so to speak, or the person in charge. You're more enslaved to expectations than the people working for you.
Mm-hmm.
Often, like 24/7, you're in a fishbowl. You're enslaved to the expectations of your role, and sometimes that's the irony of power differentials in relationships. And so the less wordy way of saying is, hey, I think I'm figuring out this relationship, but can I have a little more time? That's the short version of it. But all of that is kind of, floating around in the back there. Boy, I hope I just didn't kill that song by putting it under a microscope.
No. I don't think that you did. I honestly don't, because I think that and I knew the backstory because you and I talked about it, with my history of working in hospice and whatnot. I had a deep appreciation for what you were dealing with. And the cool part is that song came out of it as a byproduct. but I don't think it comes across as, that
Not
particular type of a song. It was,
a-
you left it for the listener to apply whatever reason of thinking that they wanted to, if that makes sense.
yeah, until now, since I gave it
Yeah.
away.
Well, I mean,
But I'm thinking that I'm telling you that's not 100% my intention either. It was just part of the inspiration. Um,
yeah.
track three, breaking me but making me a better man. That one just is almost in the title. It's just the old, uh, you know, hard times can make for stronger people type of adage. Uh, and that was the gist of that. Between the darkness and the light. I mean, the first line in there, everybody thinks I'm singing about Flint. I could be. Small town is drowning, but can't find a drop to drink. We all entangle and rust beneath our feet. We had the water crisis here with
Oh, yeah.
rust in the pipes or whatever, lead and rust. But, so when I played it for my friend Jeff Paris, he said, "Is that about Flint?" I'm like, "Could be." The next verse could be about Detroit too.
Yep. Yeah,
But
there's a lot of fun stuff on this album, and one of the things that I like about your style, Greg, like I've talked about earlier in this episode, this album comes with a very similar feel, featuring some blues, some R&B, some funk, and a little bit of that older rock. It's a sound that your fans clearly have gotten accustomed to, okay, on your albums. And I'd venture to guess that you or would I venture to guess that you would not continue to use this formula? I think this is something that has just become synonymous with Greg Nagy. It's not ever going to be straight down the middle in the box blues or whatever.
well,
Would I be right in that?
I yeah, I mean, I would say I sincerely don't go into it with a template, or a formula per se.
Right.
Unless my formula is ADHD, then yes. Um, because that really is it. I'm looking for inspiration, and I'm open to wherever from to any source. Um, it's like, and then there's clearly a difference, and you've seen me live. There's clearly a difference between my live shows and my recorded stuff.
Absolutely, yes.
In fact, years ago when I was nominated for Blues Music Award, and I went and played at a area juke joint. I'm proud to say that the guys that were hosting didn't want to let me off the stage, and the guys from the Blues
Wow.
knew my material said, "I didn't know you played that much guitar." And I'm like, well, they kept encouraging me, so I kept going. But that's live, and the thing about live is you can get away with some woolliness, if you will, or some looseness, or some just tossing caution to the wind. And for that reason alone, there are a lot of people, a lot of people who prefer just to perform live because they feel like they can play without self-editing. And the thing that's kind of is a little bit, I am honored when somebody actually records me at a show. I feel like, oh, they care enough to want to capture this. But then I think, don't self-edit, Greg. You're not in the studio, but because somebody's recording you, somebody else is going to see this.
Yeah.
But I want the freedom of screwing up and walking a tightrope a little bit, or screwing up and falling on my face. And then there's a middle ground there. It's like, well, maybe you can split the difference. Maybe you have this stock stuff that you play that is going to deliver, but every once in a while, stick it out, and then if it doesn't work, you look around and see if anybody's recording. Go, oh well. Dude, so much for that Yelp review. But it's like I can't be there in that space. But I understand the difference between approaching something, more of an ad lib, improvised live performance versus recorded. Some of the ad lib stuff can record beautifully to capture a moment. But even the greatest of greats, there's no shortage of bootleg tapes of them having an off night. And boy,
Sure.
that's something that's always kind of gotten me more than anything else. The ones that make me wince is if I'm playing a festival or something where the monitors were really bad over the years, and then I hear myself and I sound vocally pitchy. Like, I'll forgive myself for all kinds of dumb guitar shit. But if I vocally pitchy, I go, oh. And in today's culture, everybody's so cruel. Like they'll go find David Lee, not that David Lee Roth is killing it these days, but I suspect that what we're seeing are his worst moments, because they'll clip down to 15 seconds of him doing something on stage now.
Yeah.
And viral, and then people extrapolate from that. That's his whole show. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. I haven't been to one. But the point being, it's a different thing when you know that somebody's capturing your moment, and I'm digressing way too much. But so I look at these as two different art forms. I look at recording and live performing as two separate things. Does that make sense?
Yeah. And you know, you have some similarities to Larry in your presentation. And that was what I was wanting to get to in the second part of this. Is Larry is not straight down the line in the blues either. He diverges off in here and there, and then he throws you a curve when you're not expecting it. I think it's a wonderful way to keep the listener's attention.
Yeah.
And stepping out there on the tightrope once in a while is not such a bad thing, especially for the people that are fans of your music. And I just, you know, I think it was a fun. First of all, I want to thank you. I guess I should have done that earlier, for the opportunity to hear this album before we did the interview, because it gives me a lot better position mentally to understand the album and try to get a handle on where you're going with it, so I could ask you good questions about it. And I hope I've done that on this, but go ahead.
No, absolutely you have. Go ahead. I interrupted.
Okay. But anyway, I just think that it's wonderful when you don't have to be guided by one particular genre. You can branch off, and there's people that say, well, that's not blues, that's rock. Well, why can't it be rock infused blues?
Yeah.
Why can't it be blues infused rock? I mean, you know, I'm not going to be a snob when it comes to music. There are people that are snobs, and that's their choice.
Yeah.
It's their buffet. They can put whatever they want on their plate, you know? And how many times have you heard me say that in an interview? I have a very big buffet plate, and I like a little bit of everything.
Yeah.
You give that to your listener, and I appreciate that.
You did an interview with Tad Robinson a while back, I believe.
I did.
Tad's an old friend, and I lifted an expression that he shared with me years ago. He said it's like Baskin Robbins. I forget the total number of flavors that ad used to have.
31 flavors, I think it is.
But it is, and there's something for everyone, and you don't have to enjoy them all. And
exactly.
Once you put it in that context, you're like, oh yeah. Or as my friend Jim Elfredson would say once in a while, it's not for you. So I think more than anything else, it's the year 2025.
Sure is. For a couple more months.
Here's my first album, Walk That Fine Thin Line. You know, it could be anything. People are like, what is that song about? It could be anything. It could be about the creative process. It's that fine thin line between saying I'm in a genre, but I don't want to sound like I'm so in a genre that I'm basically ripping off everything. You know,
that's fair.
That fine
that's
line.
Fair.
Where do I put that? Now, I don't say ripping off is a derogatory thing, because I put it in the category of craftsmanship. And I don't know I can't remember if we talked about this on the previous podcast.
I've had discussions with a couple of musicians, one of them being Vincent Hayes, and I don't think he'll mind me talking about this. Okay. We have these discussions regularly. It's not ripping off. It's not, and the other one was, Earl Thomas. He's another one that we've had this discussion. It's your interpretation. It's not ripping off. It's not knocking off. It's interpretation. And there's nothing wrong with your interpretation.
Right. If you interpret, that's the big thing.
Yeah.
So interpret is you're making it interesting to a new audience and to yourself. When I say ripping off, I'm just saying in terms of like, I kind of self-effacingly joked about myself and my role in the blues world, as they call it. If a blues song, a shuffle, I mean, you just pick it. You pick any tune right now. I'm blanking on a super stock tune, but Tore Down or something. You know, let's say take Tore Down with its breaks and it's, you know, coming in from the 5 chord, and instead of singing I'm tore down, I'm throwing down. I'm so mad I could throw somebody on the floor. Whatever. This is the dumbest thing I've ever said out loud. But this song is not coming. But let's say then you caught most of the melody, and you got the exact shuffle, the same tempo, the same key even. Nobody's going to get sued because that song didn't get triple platinum. But that song got triple platinum. Somebody would try to go after you for the shuffle.
Yeah.
You know, go after a few years ago, they tried to go after the Marvin Gaye estate went after somebody, Ed Sheeran. Remember that? And I mean, they had a point that was very vibey for what's going on. But then in the chord, he kind of showed how many songs had those grooves and how many songs had those chord changes. He just happened to, you know, do it more than some of the other ones. But the point is, like, you can only copyright the melody, and I think you need 8 bars. And so you have songs like Tennessee Whiskey that sounds like I'd Rather Go Blind to me, to the point where, like, I tip my hat to Chris Stapleton for not getting sued.
Yeah.
And I'm like, how do you sue somebody who's covering, I think it's a Tom T. Hall song or it's a country standard, but putting it in an Etta James template?
That crazy.
But if that song would have been triple platinum and there was more money involved, I bet you that would have been a lawsuit. So I always joke about that when people try to honor a genre. I just say, well, if you go back through it historically, there were evolutionary jumps within the actual real deal blues guys.
Yes.
Wanted to stay relevant. You know, most of them, I believe this to be fact. Dick Sherman would be the guy to have this conversation with, because he'd tell you all day long that these guys weren't like wanting to just curate the museum, you know, but what their superpower was is they came up through the roots. So no matter what they played, when Muddy Waters started getting funkier, it still sounded really like Southern culture was still hidden in there where he came from. It still had that rootsy, raw, you know, muddy thing.
Well, and I think that Earl Thomas said it best when he talked about the natural innate ability of these older musicians to do that music because they lived it.
Yeah.
And it came through in every song that they wrote.
It was part of their everyday life. It was part of their
Yeah.
It wasn't just like a hobby. But then most music has become removed from the workaday world. I hate to say it. You know, the thing about early jazz and early blues, I've heard the expression that it was, you know, often having entertainment, having fun in spite of conditions. And now we have a whole bunch of other, I sound like an old guy now. We have a whole other distractions with social media and all this other stuff to you know, get our little dopamine hits and forget about whatever for a minute. But not too long ago, well, growing up in Flint, Michigan, man, there were like bars, music venues all over the place because people worked in the factories and most of them hated their jobs, and they would have bands 7 nights a week all over the city of Flint.
Yep.
And some of those bands like Grand Funk and stuff went on to do some pretty big things. And it was because people wanted some sort of creative, interesting, fun leisure. Now, there was a lot of other bad things that went with that scene. I'm not trying to romanticize. Genesee County led the, here's bragging rights for you, before my time. Genesee County led the country per capita in venereal disease in the 70s.
Wow.
In Flint,
The more you know.
the more you know.
All right, Greg, we got to talk about this, man. When is the official release date? It's this week, but what is the date?
Oh, October 1st.
October 1st. So we're talking just a couple of days here. We also want to make it available for people to go and get, because it's available now for pre-ordering, which, as I understand, you're willing to sign these. Is that correct?
Absolutely, yeah. Willing and able.
Cool. All right, is this going to be available on vinyl too, or is this CD only?
I still haven't taken the plunge on vinyl. You know what my thought on vinyl is? I think it's awesome. I was almost thinking about doing a double album of best of whatever, but I don't know what the best of is yet. I don't know how I determine.
Well, you and I have had this discussion how many different times. I think if you did the live version of the album that you talked about doing on vinyl, you'd sell a bunch.
Yeah, that might be kind of cool.
That I think that, just a little bug in your ear to think about it. But
Does
for
it?
now, it's CD only.
Yeah.
Before we wrap up, I wanted to talk about Dave Keller. Dave is coming through. He's actually going to be coming. He's out of Montpelier, Vermont, and he is going to be in Toledo, Ohio on the 27th of October. He's making a one night only appearance here in Lansing at Urban Beat on the 28th. And from what I understand, you're going to be there as well. I'd like to get a little bit of a handle on what you guys are thinking about for your show that night.
Well, initially I was thinking about just hooking up a friend with a gig. And then he said, well, let's do it as a duo. And I said, okay. So we're both, like acoustic, or we might have our electrics, but just the two of us. And at first he was thinking about songwriter in the round. I'll do a song, you do a song, we'll do a song together.
Sure.
Because initially I thought, well, dude, I'll just do an opening set for you. He goes, no, I want to play with you. He goes, we should play together. So that means I got some homework to do. I got to learn some songs before the 28th. So it's
now, you said it's going to be acoustic?
Most primarily, yeah. I mean, acoustic vibe, yeah. I mean, we could have an electric, but it's just the two of us.
Okay.
But sometimes guys will play tellies clean and play, finger style blues stuff on it. And so, so basically it's a duo. He's presenting it as a duo. I was totally prepared to A, just help hook a brother up, B, open for him if he wanted it, and then C, he came up with, hey, let's do it as a duo. I'm like, all right, that'd be fun. That means I'll sing harmonies with you on some stuff and vice versa. So I'm looking forward to that. And by the way, before I forget, I've been asked to do one song opening essentially earlier for a guy by the name of Flo Rida. He's a rap guy.
No kidding. Where's this going to be?
That's going to be in Auto City. There's like 3 or 4 rappers on the bill. It's called Hip Hopaloosa. I kid you not.
Talk about stretching out there, man. That's something else.
They're expecting probably 10, 20,000 people.
Wow.
And he wants me to do one song. This promoter came in and he said, he's seen me twice on solo acoustic gigs. And he goes, I want you to do your version of Thrill Is Gone. I'm like, really?
Wow.
Like that one song, I'll pay you this much money to do that one song. I'm like, will there be chicken wire there in case it doesn't go over well? So I'm being a little crazy on that one, but I'm gonna do it. And then of course on October 28th, the thing with Dave, I'm looking forward to that. And then I have a house concert I'm doing in Clarkston that people can find out about on my website. That is kind of an intimate setting, but it's quasi invitation only. Like you got to get a hold of the people, and then I don't know, they have limited seating.
Okay.
But that's gonna be with the full band. I'll have Ray Goodman with me, and that is on the 18th of October. So
wow.
Yeah,
busy guy. Look at you, still going at it, man. Still going at it. If I could throw in one request for you to think about with Dave, I would love to hear the acoustic version of The Thrill Is Gone while you're there.
All right.
I would love to hear that.
Absolutely.
Don't make me yell it out from the audience because I will.
Yeah. Yeah. It's funny. It's something that with the band, it doesn't quite do what I mean, the bands that I play with are wonderful, but there's something about the intimacy of the acoustic version of it that people lean into it.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I want to hear what you do. I want to hear this rendition because, I mean, if the guy's requesting it, he's got to be hearing it in his head somehow. Yeah,
he's an interesting guy too. He was telling me how he's a little bit older than me, but he was somehow involved with all that Bill Graham, San Francisco, Haight-Ashbury, that era.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
All stuff. Like he was a big music industry guy, and now he lives in the Flint area, and he's putting this show on, and then he's putting on a Michael McDonald show next year. And that one I would have felt a little more comfortable with, the Michael McDonald one, just because a lot of baby boomers, and I'm not sure how I'm going to do with the rap audience, but
All I want you to do is I want you to tell me the next day what it was like. Would you do that? Give me a call and tell me.
Make sure
'Cause I'd love to hear it.
Well, it's funny because I have a friend who's kind of in touch with a lot of that stuff. Simeo was is a Flint area guy who wrote for Cameo, which is a big band back in the 90s.
Okay.
Word Up. They had a big hit called Word Up. It's Simeo and then Ready for the World and all these bands that were. But Simeo's worked with all kinds of people. He knows Michael McDonald and all these people. But I to ask him, talk to him about the gig, and he goes, "They're gonna love you, man. Don't worry about it." I'm like, "Did you see the Blues Brothers movie when they played the country?" We played, anyhow, country.
All right, Greg. Before we got to get wrapped up here, where can we send people to learn more about you? Maybe buy some merch or CDs, to pre-order the new album, and book you for a gig.
www.gregnagy.com. That's
very
it.
Simple.
Yeah, I had to make it simple so I could find it.
And you're on all the socials too, correct?
I'm active on Facebook. I have no idea what Twitter is. I know I have an Instagram account, but I don't know how to get into it. But so the short answer, Facebook. I'm on Facebook.
Cool. Well, Greg Nagy, my good friend, it's always a pleasure to have you on, man. And before I forget, I wanted to thank you publicly for the chance meeting you set me up with for Anika Chambers and Paul Delorier, better known as Chambers Delorier. Wanted to let you know that I'm interviewing them in a couple of days. It's going to be aired in December. I'm so excited to have them on before the end of season 5. And I'm also excited for the opportunity to talk to them. They are just one hell of a team. But I wanted to thank you for setting that up, man.
Oh yeah, they're fun. I after you left that gig, they had me up to play that second set with them, and then we went over to Luigi's Pizza in Flint. There's their plug, and had pizza. And the two of them together are just. They could have their own reality TV show. I had a great time listening to the way they interacted with each other, just as a couple. And, I mean, they're great musically. That's a given, but they got a certain something about them in their relationship. That's a beautiful thing to
indeed.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. Well, as we come to a close in this edition of Time Signatures, I would like to tell you about the Capital Area Blues Society based right here in Lansing. Cabs began its run in the fall of 1994, and they built a strong presence in Central Michigan, offering an annual blues brawl where the band and the solo duo winners are sent to Memphis to compete in the annual International Blues Challenge on Beale Street in Memphis. But there's a lot more. We also hold an annual Breaking Bread with the Blues, offering a day of blues music and a chance to raise funds and food donations for the Greater Lansing Food Bank. And by the way, CABS also presents this program, for which I am eternally grateful. As with all nonprofits, the Capital Area Blues Society is always looking for donations, so please consider a tax-deductible donation to CABS today. Visit capitalareablues.org to make your donation at any amount. And as always, thank you so much for your consideration. And that wraps up this edition of Time Signatures. My name is Erv. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you also to Greg Nagy, but also for you. Without you, none of this would be possible. Jim Ervin reminding you, keeping the blues alive is everyone's responsibility, but preserving the history of the blues, one story at a time, is my mission. Until next time, so long, everybody.
This has been Time Signatures with Jim Ervin, presented by the Capital Area Blues Society in Lansing, Michigan. For more information on CABS, visit capitalareablues.org. You can find this episode and past episodes at lccconnect.org. The Time Signatures theme song, Michigan Roads, is used by permission and was written by Root Doctor, featuring Freddie Cunningham.
You know I'm trying, baby, driving up and down these Michigan roads, yeah.
Until next time, keep on keeping the blues alive.
Baby, I'm home.